All right, I think we will get started now. Thank you everybody for participating in the Congresswoman's monthly webinar series. This month we have Jim Glenn from the IRS in with us today. He is going to be presenting on some best practices and some general information for the upcoming filing season. Again, this will be recorded and posted to the Congresswoman's official website at tenny.house.gov at a later date. If there are any questions during the presentation or after, we will have the function of the Q&A or the chat below your screens or above, depending on how your Zoom is set up. And so I just wanted to plug in that if you have any questions after this, you can also contact the Congresswoman's office. You can either do so online at tenny.house.gov /contact, or you can contact our district offices. We have one in Victor, New York, Lockport, New York, Oswego, New York. We also have a satellite office in Watertown, New York, and we also have our Washington, D.C. office. That information is also on the website as well. With that, I'm going to stop my screen sharing, and I am going to hand the controls over to Jim Glenn over at the IRS. Jim, on behalf of the Congresswoman, thank you very much for participating in this and look forward to seeing the presentation.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the opportunity here. Can you see my screen all right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try and hit the highlights here. I know we actually have, it's a little bit of limited time. And my goal here is to give you some, as Michael mentioned, best practices, some insights and some suggestions on how to make the tax filing experience, which we are all required to do on an annual basis, make it a little easier, a little less problematic. And if you do run into issues, give you some options of how to address those issues, solve those issues, so that you can successfully do your annual filing and continue to be tax compliant, at least on the federal level. Let's see here. Sorry, I went too fast here. So I'm going to talk. This is kind of a list of the agenda for today, issues that I'm going to touch on, some new family independent tax credits, some clean energy credits that were passed this past year. Give you some ideas about engaging a tax return preparer if that is something that you are interested in, and other options regarding filing and what happens once you file, what your expectations should be, and let you know about the services and tools that are available to you to use, not just during the filing season, but all year round. So I will just say that our website, which is www.irs.gov, that's irs.gov is your friend. It is can be your first location to go to when you come across a question. We have a new app called a Tax Assister. Interactive Tax Assistance, which if you type in the issue that you're looking at, it can give you all of our resources that are available to you, give you some guidance, and hopefully make your experience, I won't say more enjoyable, but more satisfying. All right, so let's talk about some of the new changes that happened this year. First of all, the filing deadline this year is April 15th. I know sometimes it is not the 15th. If you are in the state of Maine or the state of Massachusetts, it's actually April 17th this year, but that's because of state holidays. That does not have an impact on New York residents. So April 15th is the filing deadline. We have seen Increases in the standard deduction amounts. I've noted that here. I'll just say single, the new standard deduction amount, $13,850. If you are married filing jointly, you're qualifying surviving spouse, that deduction amount is $27,700. And if you're a head of household, the new standard deduction amount, $20,800. All right, so and just jump into some of the new tax credits that are available to you. I'm not going to go into them in depth because this information, as I have mentioned, is available on irs.gov. First is child tax credit, up to $2,000 per qualifying child, and up to $1,600 of that can be refundable. Again, we have a schedule that you can fill out when you are filing your taxes. That schedule is available on irs.gov. The instructions for the schedule 8812 is also available on irs.gov. In addition to the child tax credit, we have the credit for other dependents, and that is if you're a dependent not qualifying for purposes of the child tax credit. And this can be worth up to $500 per dependent. Again, it's also claimed using Schedule 8812, and the instructions for Schedule 8812 will help you determine whether or not you are eligible to take this credit or the child tax credit. Also, if you are working parent and you are using child or dependent care, you can get up to a credit amount of $2,100 for 2 or more qualifying children. You would use Form 2441 to file for that, and the publication, IRS publication 503, explains what the tests that you need to meet in order to determine whether or not you are eligible for this credit. Again, all of this information is available on irs.gov. All of our forms and all of our publications are available electronically now on irs.gov. The last family independent credit I want to just mention here is the Earned Income Tax Credit. This one has been around for quite a while. It's actually not utilized by as many people as are eligible, but there are some strict eligibility requirements. We have developed the EIT assister or assistant to help you determine whether or not you are eligible. So I would say, give yourself plenty of time to use this assistant to figure out whether or not you are eligible for this credit, in which case, it could mean up to, over $7,000 if you have 3 or more qualifying children. So this is all money on the table that might be available to you. We encourage you that if you are eligible to utilize. We also have education credits that are new to the education credits, the American Opportunity Tax Credit and the Lifetime Learning Credit. There are some rules and applying to both that you need to check to see if you might be eligible. You or your dependent or a third party pays qualified education expenses for higher education. An eligible student must be enrolled at an eligible educational institution. And the eligible student is yourself, your spouse, or a dependent that you list on your tax return. So Form 8866 will give you the instructions on how to claim the credit. Our publication, IRS publication 970, explains the benefit and will help you determine whether or not you can claim it. Moving on. So we have some additional credits and provisions in the tax code been enacted regarding clean energy. And first, I'm going to just mention the clean vehicle credits. There are actually 2 clean vehicle credits. One is the new clean vehicle credit, which is obviously for unused brand new vehicles. It's available for both individuals and businesses. To qualify, you must buy or use the vehicle. It's not for resale, and it must be used primarily in the United States. Again, that's the new vehicle credit. So if you're applying for the previously owned vehicle credit, now that is only available to individuals. And again, you've bought the vehicle for use and not for resale. You can't be the original owner. Like I said, it has to be a used vehicle, and you can't be claimed as a dependent on another person's tax return. So again, if you think you might be interested, or you might be eligible to claim this credit, you can check on irs.gov for the information about filing for these two credits. In addition, there was some tax credits that were related to the home energy and improving your home. If you improve your home, making it more energy efficient, there are credits available to you. We have Form 5695 available for you to calculate and figure out if any of these residential energy credits you might be eligible for. And if there are home energy tax credits, these expenses, if you qualify, again, there are detailed requirements. It could involve, new windows and doors, new air conditioners or heat pumps, biomass stoves, all of these new technology or upgrades to your home. Again, you are interested, irs.gov has the information available. And there are other credits that might be regarding solar and wind and geothermal generation. Again, irs.gov would be your the best place to begin looking to see if you are eligible. Now, I think it's clear that sometimes some of these credits can be confusing, and if you want, a lot of people choose to go to a tax return preparer in order to help them when they're filing their returns. We've wanted to offer some advice when it comes to choosing a tax return preparer. We can't give recommendations, but we can give you some ideas about what to look out for to make sure that when you are looking for and interviewing a tax preparer, that you are asking the right questions, they are giving you the right information, so that you could be confident that they are going to be representing your interests. Because ultimately, since you as the taxpayer sign the return, you are responsible for any penalties or interest. And then if you feel as if the tax preparer has not served you well, it is up to you as the customer to pursue any sanctions against the return preparer. But as far as the IRS is concerned, the taxpayer who signs the return is responsible for penalties and interest. So things you want to look out for. You're looking for a reputable professional, somebody, a preparer that will sign the form. There's I've heard this on the news recently. There's a term called ghost preparer. You may have heard that as well. This is a preparer who will not sign the tax return on behalf of as the preparer for the taxpayer. Any preparer that will not sign, will not take responsibility for their work, I would be very, very leery of. And we recommend that that probably is someone that you may not want to engage in preparing your taxes. Other things to look out for: you want the preparer to provide you with a copy of the return that is submitted. You want that person to be available for any follow-up questions, and you want them to be able to verify their credentials. If they have any kind of professional credentials, a CPA or a law degree or anything like that. You want to avoid signing blank tax forms. That is a very, very bad idea, to sign a blank tax form, because anybody that asks you to do that, they may not have your interests at heart. So keep that in mind. If anyone promises a larger than expected, I would say, tax refund, If it's too good, if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. Again, you would want to be very, very cautious about that kind of person. And if anyone says that their fee is based on the amount of refund that they are able to provide for you, that's a huge red flag, a huge warning sign that you want to avoid that person, if at all possible. And finally, the thing that you want to ask, if a return preparer has registered with the Internal Revenue Service, if they have, if they're a legitimate return preparer, they're going to have what we call a PTIN, a Preparer Tax Identification Number, and you want to get that that number, that PTIN, from your preparer, so that if there's any questions that regarding the return, that you're then able to go back to the preparer for assistance in responding to any questions that come up. All right, so when you're filing your tax return, we have a free file program. Anyone under $79,000 in income, and if you have access to the internet, you can use a IRS free file program. If you have under $64,000 of income, you might be eligible for our VITA, or our volunteer income tax return preparer program. These are volunteers that assist lower and income people. We also have a program that is focused for our elderly. It's called the TCE, Tax Counseling for the Elderly. Again, when we associate with different not-for-profit and volunteer organizations out there, and they schedule these clinics during the course of the filing season. And when those get scheduled, again, if you are in a geographic area, you can go to irs.gov, put in your location, zip code, and find the closest site where they will be conducting one of these sessions. And they may require a reservation, depending on where they're being held and how many people are involved. So if you want to take advantage of our programs, you're certainly welcome to do that. And you just use the search link on irs.gov. And I've already mentioned Ghost Preparers. I can't tell you, that's become one of our largest areas where we're experiencing problems with regard to, certainly on the preparer issue and bad actors. So again, wanted to mention it a second time. Some tips. So if you want to avoid any delays in getting your refund, here's some things that you can do to move things along. Most of our refunds are sent in less than 21 days. Those are the electronic refunds. Things that might kind of slow that down, of course, would include any error or an incomplete filing. If there's any identity theft or fraud involved, that will, we have automatic filters that might catch that. And of course, if that happens, we will work with you to try and resolve that. But again, you have to be patient. Just it can be very, very frustrating, as you might expect, and it may take over a year to get a final resolution, because you usually have to go through at least one subsequent tax filing season to make sure that your tax filing goes through without any problems, to indicate whether or not that issue has been resolved. So anyways, if you file and provide all of the necessary information, if IRS does not contact you for additional information, you should have your refund in 21 days or less. And you can track that on irs.gov, again, if you are using our electronic filing system. Usually within 48 to 72 hours, you can track where your refund is in the processing system on irs.gov. If you're filing hard copy, it takes a lot longer than that. It usually takes about 4 weeks before you can track it under where's my refund. And again, processing those returns, hard copy returns, and we do have still have a lot of them. That's why it takes so long. You'd estimate between 10 and 15% of our filings on an annual basis, which, you know, we get about 160 million filers, individual filers, over the course of the filing season. So we're talking about anywhere from 16 to 20 million or so returns that are hand processed, and they take a lot longer. Some advice about things to avoid. You want to make sure that all your identifying information is correct. Social security numbers, it's so easy to mix that up. Other things, one thing, I think our biggest area where people who have not, that causes delays, is where people have not signed their return. And again, you know, obviously can't fully process that until it is signed by the taxpayer. So you want to follow all these advice, you know, double check your information, triple check it if you have to. Want to make sure it's accurate. And of course, always keep a copy just in case any question comes up. It doesn't have to necessarily come up in this filing season. It can come up in a later filing season. So you want to keep your copies of your filing for at least, you know, 3 to 7 years. If you owe, after you file, if you owe, you can file for an extension of time to file, but that doesn't mean that you have an extension of in time to pay. You have to pay by the April 15th deadline. But if there are problems, we recognize that there are problems. We do have some options. They're mentioned, some of them are mentioned here. You can get a short-term extension, you can get an extended payment plan, or offer, what we call offer and compromise, which is basically you know, something, an installment plan would be a good way to describe it. And or you could ask for a temporary delay of collection, but you have to ask for these. They are not given automatically. And if you are not, and you start incurring penalties and interest, you do put yourself in a position where, you know, those things can add up pretty quickly. So just keep that in mind. You know, don't avoid any communication that you receive from the IRS. And most of our communication is going to come by mail. Be sure to open and read any of that mail in as timely a manner as possible. We don't usually use telephone. We certainly don't use email when it comes to an individual taxpayer, because that information we consider to be very, very important, and so we protect it as much as possible. Do not convey that information electronically. There are instances where we may reach out on the telephone, but we do, if there's somebody asking you for any personal information, bank account numbers, or other personally identifiable information, be careful about that. It may not very well be IRS related, maybe somebody attempting to perpetrate a scam. So we would not ask you that, but again, we want you to be aware of and sensitive to, this is a time when people, bad actors are trying to take advantage of folks, and we are trying to get ahead of that, and giving you information like this to keep you aware. So one thing that we have taking a lot of effort and trying to we recognize that, this is a very diverse population. There are new residents to the United States that come from other countries that English is not necessarily their first language. They want to be compliant in their tax obligations. So we are expanding the number of languages where people can request information or request forms in other languages. Here is the schedule that lists the ones that are currently available. So again, we are trying to allow people to stay compliant, be compliant, recognizing that English may not be their first language. So another area where we're seeing a lot of scams, these phishing scams, that people are bad actors are requesting information. I've already mentioned that. IRS does not, I should say, request personal information over the phone. If you're being asked for your bank routing number, or you're asked for your social security number, or any other kind of personal, your credit card numbers, that is not something that IRS would ask, certainly not over the phone. So again, want you to be very, very aware of that. And this time of year during the filing season, we publish what we call the Dirty Dozen, and that is the 12 worst scams or the highest number, scams that we're experiencing the highest number of perpetrators. It's on irs.gov. If it could be very useful to you as a taxpayer to consult that, so that your sensitivity to receiving communications excuse me, regarding your federal tax filing, if you're getting calls or emails or letters that you're not sure of, that again, we want to sensitize you to that. So we on our again, our webpage, irs.gov, we've got links to these scams. They're described in detail, and how you can report them, pursue them, as far as letting us know and letting other law enforcement know that someone is attempting to try and take advantage of you. And we want to try and prevent that. So I mentioned irs.gov a number of times. Again, there are links on our page where you can get any of the services that I've mentioned. Checking your own online account or where your refund might be. Again, I think I mentioned that we have a tax assister phone line during the filing season. Certain times of the day, the volume is higher than others. The tax assister line is 1-800-TAX-1040 or 1-800-329-1040. As we get closer to the tax deadline, that line will also experience an uptick in the number of users. So if you're looking for information and you want to talk to a real person, you're going to have to be patient and even call outside of normal business hours. We do have some extended hours regarding that. Be a little flexible, and again, exercising patient. And again, the sooner you reach out, the better, because as you get closer and closer to April 15th, those lines, it will be very difficult to get through. And we understand how frustrating that can be, but there's only so many lines available and so many people that we can provide. But we want you to know that it is out there, and depending on each individual's personal facts and circumstance, it will determine what taxes you owe. But you have to be compliant, and you have to submit your filing filing your return by April 15th. Well, I hope that information has been helpful. And, I appreciate the amount of time that that you've taken today to listen to me. I'm just I think I will turn it over to Michael to see if he's got any questions that have come to him or.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. I don't see any questions in the Q&A. I'll give it just 1 second for anybody that might have a question. But no, thank you, Jim. I believe the information on here is incredibly helpful, especially on how to get a hold of the IRS and ask questions and
Let me go
all
back.
the little details. I definitely found the phishing information much helpful because we do see that quite a bit. So I hope that everybody that sees this takes that into account and is protecting their own personal information on that. I'll give it just one more quick second, but I'll also just open it up for anybody on here or that sees the recording. Feel free to contact the Congresswoman's office as well if you have any follow-up questions. Or need any further help from our office as well, that you can find at the beginning of the recording as well. With that, I don't see any questions from the Q&A or the chat, so I think we'll leave it at this. Jim, thank you again on behalf of the Congresswoman. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and it's always appreciated. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.